the Jews never stole any land from the Arabs, and a million people couldn't prove me wrong. Almost a year ago, I made a short video while I was sick, and I asked one very simple question. If you're claiming that the Jews stole land, then give me the name of one Jewish settlement that was established on stolen Arab land before the Arabs started a war to eliminate the Jews in 1947. Give me the name of one Arab who claimed in 1935 that bad white European Jews had come along and kicked him out of his house, his property, of his land. I'm not asking for a list of 100 or even 10 names, just one. And we're not talking about 300 years ago. We're talking about 80 or 90 years ago when the British were here before World War II, or when the Ottomans were here before World War I. If you were to go to a police station in Wisconsin or anywhere else in the world and say to the police officer, "My neighbor stole from me," then they would ask you what they stole and when, right? This is basic common sense. So I'm asking you the same question. My video got 1 million views, 16,000 comments, and 0 people who succeeded in proving me wrong. Soon I will be going over a few of the comments I got. I was very happy to see that most of the comments I got were anti-Israel. This means that the video broke out of my pro-Israel echo chamber. I will also take this opportunity to say that no, I don't delete comments. I really do believe in free speech, as it makes you smarter. And I criticize Muslim society precisely for not having free speech. So no, I don't delete comments that don't fit my agenda. I find it really interesting that the whole world is accusing Israel of stealing land, yet no one can give me a single example of Jews actually stealing land. Do you know who did steal land? The Arabs stole land from the Jews. Now, I'm not just saying that. I can give you examples. Let me show you how it is done. In 1929, the Arabs of Hebron stole property of the Jews. And I can even give you the names of the Jews who lost their property. The Chasson family, the Ben Zion family, the Slonim family. So you see, I say where, when, and I give names. And I can do the same for other instances of Arabs stealing Jewish land, like Gaza. Jews had been settled in Gaza for hundreds of years, until the Arabs eliminated the Jewish community there in 1929. Same in Jerusalem. In Jerusalem in 1880, so before the Zionist movement started, the Jews were in the majority. Anyway, in series of pogroms, the Arabs ethnic cleansed the Jews from the old city of Jerusalem, so that by 1948, there were no Jews left in the old city. When did the Arabs lose land? And they did lose land in wars that they started. In 1947, the UN proposed the two-state solution. The Arabs said no and started a war. By the way, the Arab leaders weren't saying that the offer wasn't fair and that the Jews should get less. They said one thing only, and they said it very clear. We want to kill all the Jews. Again, I can back up everything I say. Here is a quote from the leader of the Arabs, Mufti Amin al-Husseini. Arabs, rise as one and fight for your sacred rights. Kill the Jews wherever you find them. This pleases God, history, and religion. This saves your honor. God is with you. A quick side note, he calls on Arabs to kill the Jews. He doesn't call on Palestinians to kill the Jews. You know why? Because in 1948, the Palestinians had not yet been invented. Think that I'm wrong? Find me one quote from an Arab leader who used the term Palestinians before 1960. Now, I'm talking to the internet, which is a really big place full of lots of different people who all have different points of view. So I'm going to make a general statement that will hopefully be understood by anyone with more than half a brain and this much of common sense. If you start a war to eliminate your neighbor and you lose, you're not a victim. How about taking responsibility? Let me back this statement up with some facts that many people might not know. You all know that Germany started World War II in order to eliminate the Jews, expand to the east, and enslave the Slavic people. What you may not know is that after the war, not during the war, after the war, 90,000 square kilometers of German land was ceded to Poland. 14 million Germans had to leave their land. Many had lived there for many generations. Prussia and Silesia, the areas that the Germans were forced to give up, were the foundation stone of the German Empire, and the majority of the Germans there were not Nazis. More than 1 million Germans died in this violent deportation. I don't remember anyone in the world protesting in favor of the millions of Germans who lost their land to Poland. On the eastern side of Poland, more than 1 million Poles had to evacuate their homes because the Soviets decided to draw new borders. However, I didn't see any students in Columbia University demonstrating for the poor Poles who had to flee while being innocent of any crime. Same with the Ukraine and the Balkans. Tens of millions had to evacuate their homeland after World War II. Another interesting example is the partition of India into India and Pakistan. It was done by the British in the same year, 1948. And it is the same story. Muslims and non-Muslims who don't get along. 14 to 20 million Hindus and Muslims had to move, and 1 million to 2 million died during this ordeal. All the examples I just gave you, Germany, Poland, Ukraine, the Balkans, India, happened during the same years, around 1948. And each of these movements of people involved at least 10 times more people and casualties, and 10 times as much land as that of the Arabs in the land of Israel. Why is it that it seems that the world has forgotten about this? Could it be that you can't blame the Jews for it? So why bother about talking about it 80 years later? And by the way, nobody is calling these people refugees, as in the case with the Palestinians. Not even these people themselves. Another group that doesn't get any attention is the Jews from Muslim countries. They have had to leave behind all their property and flee their homes because of Muslim persecution. No one is demonstrating for them. It doesn't fit the narrative that most Jews in Israel today are not white European colonialists like me, but Jews from Muslim countries that had to escape persecution, like the family of Sagi Levi, my business partner, whose family fled Yemen. So, if the Jews never stole any land, why do the Arabs hate the Jews? There are two answers to that. The first is the general one. Muslim society is intolerant of all minorities. Show me one minority from Iran in the east to Morocco in the west, from Turkey in the north to Pakistan in the south, where Christians, Hindus, Buddhists, Jews, Zoroastrians, any minority is thriving. You won't find any. Again, I'm making a bold statement. Feel free to prove me wrong. If you would just stop obsessing about the Jews in Israel and open your eyes to other things that happened in 1947 and things that are happening today in the Muslim world. So, in the sea of Muslim dictatorships and intolerance, there is one successful minority that is thriving, and that is the Jewish state. And now we get to the second part, because this isn't just any minority, it is the Jews. For hundreds of years, the Jews were humiliated in Muslim society. There were pogroms against Jews in Iraq, Iran, Morocco, and Yemen. In some Muslim countries, Jews weren't allowed to ride horses. They had to live in ghettos, and Jewish children were Muslimized. And those Jews who Muslims wanted to see denigrated now have a state, and a successful one. Now, let's go over some of the comments I received. So you invade countries and then they belong to you if you win. Hang on a minute, isn't it called colonialism? That rat is a disgusting Zionist. First of all, I'm not a rat. I identify as a dolphin. In this comment, there is a basic point that many fail to understand. Today, we think of the world as divided into countries. Until World War I and World War II, most people lived in multicultural empires. Many different groups lived in the German Empire or the Austro-Hungarian rule or in the Ottoman Empire here in the land of Israel. Jews were one of the groups that lived in the land of Israel as they had a 3,000-year-old connection to the land. And the Jews who arrived, like all other groups, bought and sold land. There was no Palestinian state, and there were no Palestinian people until the 1960s. The Jews didn't come in with an army and kick the native out. So no, it has nothing to do with colonialism. If you don't agree, then prove me wrong. Next comment. All over Israel are towns that had Arabic names that Israel murdered the inhabitants of or pushed them out and took over. Big surprise, an Israeli guy would say this, but the facts are the facts. All I'm asking for is the name of one town. That is it. All the towns that Arab lost were lost in wars that they themselves started. And here is an interesting fact that most Israelis don't know either. There is only one town in Israel that was established by the Muslims. Only one, Ramle. All the other cities with Arab names in Israel were colonized by the Muslims. Next comment. Typical Jews people. Thank you. I will take that as a compliment. I use reason, logic, and facts. What are you bringing to the table? Next comment. So, in your question, you are basically admitting that after the war, Israel did steal land. Why would you have framed the question that way if you were not trying to avoid the bigger question? Well, no. In a war, you lose land or you win land. Most of the borders of most of the countries around the world were shaped by this. This is a classic anti-Semitic comment. You wouldn't say that the Poles stole German land in 1946, right? The Arabs started a war to eliminate the Jews, and yes, they lost some land. It has happened in all wars throughout history. Next comment. What are you talking about? Before 1947, you were in Europe, and your entity came and slaughtered the Arabs and displaced them from their homes and lands. Learn this. In 1947, the Arabs never started a war, you fool. First, most of the Jews in Israel today, 50 years ago and 150 years ago, didn't come from Europe, but from Muslim countries. I find it so interesting that people who are anti-Israel are so obsessed with the European Jews. Second, the Arabs did start the war. The day after the UN suggested the two-state solution on 30th of November 1947, the Arabs shot at a bus number 2094 driving from Netanya to Jerusalem, killing 5 Jews. This is how the Arabs started the war, by murdering Jewish civilians. Go ahead and call me a liar, a Zionist. Thanks, I am a Zionist. Biased, a rat. You can call me all the names you want, but you can't prove me wrong. Help me spread the truth by sharing this video with friends. And join the Brightmind community. I want to thank all my supporters. You keep me going. All links are here below. See you next week. Yalla bye.